This is Harsh Rules, I'm Ben Harsh, and today we're going to learn to play Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 1. Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 1 was released in 2004 by Multiman Publishing and Avalon Hill, and designed by Ken Dunn. This game supports 2 players, and each scenario takes approximately 2 hours to play. Before we begin this episode, I'd like to recognize the Harsh Rules Patreon supporters that help make content like this possible. If you'd like to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/harshrules to learn more. And once again, thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Harsh Rules breakdown for Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 1. In this episode, we will continue to learn ASL by setting up the first starter kit scenario, retaking Veerville. Displayed on the screen is a scenario sheet. The scenario name is shown at the top of the sheet and the scenario number to the left below this. Next, let's walk through each section and learn how it's used as we set up the game. Let me draw your attention to the board configuration area of the scenario sheet. Here you will learn which map is required to play this scenario. For retaking Veerville, we will need map Y. A map's identifying letter can be found printed in the upper right-hand corner. The map icon on the scenario sheet can be a little confusing because the scenario requires it to be placed upside down. The reason for this orientation is the compass indicator printed next to the map icon. This compass establishes north and the direction for each edge of the map. You'll notice a large portion of the map icon is shaded red. Scenario 1 only uses a portion of map Y. The notation printed below the graphic sets the playable boundaries as hex rows A through V. Next, let's take a closer look at map Y. In this example, we're only going to show the playable area. Due to our widescreen presentation, I've rotated the map 180 degrees to the right to give us the largest viewing area. Turning the map will also change our directions. Now north is on the right side of the map, south is on the left side, with east on the bottom and west on the top. Just to make sure we're 100% clear, let me show you what I did with the map graphic. Now, this map is organized by an alphanumeric hex coordinate system. From this angle, hexes lettered A through V run from left to right, and numbered 1 through 10 from top to bottom. These coordinates are used to identify specific hexes on the map. Now that the map is placed, we've locked down our compass directions, and we understand the hex coordinate system, let's take another look at the scenario sheet. Back at the scenario sheet, there are several sections we need information from to set up our map. Let's begin with a read-through of the scenario briefing.
Veerville, France, 7th June 1944. On D+1, the 101st Airborne found itself embroiled in a twofold effort, consolidating its units, which were scattered all along the Cotenine Peninsula, and establishing a firm eastern perimeter to protect the American landing at Utah Beach. Veerville, which lay a few miles inland from Utah Beach, had been liberated by American units on D-Day. Veerville was a major traffic thoroughfare since the southwesternly road which passed through Veerville led from Utah Beach to the German strongpoint of Saint-Côme-du-Mont. On the morning of June 7th, elements of the 2nd Battalion, 506 PIR, moved out from Veerville towards Saint-Côme-du-Mont, leaving Veerville virtually unoccupied. The Germans took this opportunity to launch a series of counterattacks on Veerville in hopes of cutting the road to Saint-Côme-du-Mont.
So essentially, the Americans need to hold Veerville from a German counterattack. The victory conditions section tells the Americans what they need to do to win the game. The Americans win at game end if there are no good order German units in the buildings N5, N6, M4, and L3. And presumably, the Germans win if they do have good order units in one of those buildings. If you want to understand what actually happened, you can check the aftermath section at the bottom of the scenario sheet.
Small units from the 1st Battalion, 506 PIR, rushed to Vierville and threw themselves into a pitched battle with the Germans. The tide of the battle changed several times as each side received reinforcements. Ultimately, the firepower and determination of the American airborne troops proved too much for the Germans, who gave up their brief hold on Vierville after a tough fight.
Next, let's look at the scenario's turn record chart. We have a row for each nation. The Americans are noted as setting up first. However, when the game begins, the Germans move first. This is reinforced on the numbered turn spaces of the chart. Each of these numbered squares represents a full turn in the scenario. In each full turn, first the Germans play through their sequence of play, and then the Americans. The scenario ends after the 5th full turn. Each nation's counter setup is shown in their respective order of battle section. The Americans have a group of units that begin the scenario on the map. The remaining units, both American and German, will arrive in subsequent turns as reinforcements. The counter spaces on the scenario sheet are sized so you can stack the actual counters directly on them. So take a moment to do this, as it will speed up reinforcements later on. In this scenario, reinforcements are added over several turns. You'll notice that some turn spaces have an iron cross in the upper left-hand corner and a white star in the upper right-hand corner. This is a reminder that each side has reinforcements to add during the turn. Now, we should have all the information we need to set up the map. But before we go, there's 2 other sections on the scenario sheet to cover. First is the balance section. If one player is playing the scenario with a more experienced player, these are some suggestions to even the playing field. Essentially, it's going to give the experienced player a handicap. And as you play other ASL scenarios, be aware of the special rules section at the bottom of the page. While there are no special rules for retaking Vierville, other scenarios may have special rules you need to implement in the game. Now that we've covered off on that, let's head back to the map. First, let's highlight the objective buildings at L3, M4, N5, and N6. Remember, the Americans win at game end if there are no good order German units in these buildings. If there are, then the German player wins. Next, we're going to set up the American forces that begin the scenario on the map. They are set up on road hexes N3, N4, M5, and L5, and you're allowed to have no more than 1 multi-man counter per hex. Well, there are 4 multi-man counters and 4 hexes to place them in. 3 of those counters are elite squads and 1 elite half squad. So really, it's just a matter of where the half squad is going to be placed, then place a full squad in each of the remaining hexes. Finally, the American player will need to decide which of these hexes to place the leader. I'm going to place the American counters now, but remember for your own games, that decision is up to you. Now, these are the American units that begin the game on the map. Once the American player places these units and declares they're ready, they cannot reposition them. Once the declaration is made, the game is officially begun. In the next episode, we will cover the sequence of play. However, in this setup video, I want to point out that units that are not placed during setup will enter the map on a specific turn as outlined by the order of battle. The player will move those units onto the map from a specific map edge during the movement phase. For turn 1, the Germans have 2 separate forces to position. The first group of counters are for 3 squads and 1 leader of the 1058th Grenadier Regiment. These counters may be placed anywhere along the eastern board edge. The exact entry point and approach strategy to the building objectives is what gives this game its replay value. The second group of counters, the 919th Grenadier Regiment, comprised of 3 squads and a leader, enter along the west map edge. Both players should keep in mind that once the German player finishes their turn, the American player not only has their forces on the map, but also reinforcements coming in along the northern map edge. Therefore, both players need to come up with strategies to secure the objective buildings and fend off each other's attacks, which is what makes ASL so interesting. And now that we've set up the map and placed the starting units, this is a good place to stop for this episode. In the next episode of this rules breakdown, we're going to look at the sequence of play. So make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon to get the notification when that episode is available. If you found this video helpful, please give me a like and share with your friends. To be the first notified when the next episode of Harsh Rules becomes available, please hit the bell icon for notifications. And as always, this has been Harsh for Harsh Rules. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.